Hey guys, this is Gabe Dimmick from the Baseball Rebellion, and for today's swing breakdown, we're going to take a look at Madison Bumgarner. So I know he's a pitcher, but he is actually the first pitcher to ever hit 2 home runs on opening day, and that happened yesterday. And the second one was particularly impressive because he hit it 112 miles an hour. And the first one, he actually hit 112 miles an hour as well. But the first home run he hit was at 18 degrees, which is still crazy good. But when you're able to lift that kind of velocity, that 112 at this 33-degree launch angle, that is very, very, very hard to do. So we have the hit track systems in our facility, and so we get to see, when guys hit their new distances or their new high speeds, and for the most part, you're going to see the little bit higher velocities at the lower launch angles. But that doesn't mean that that's the best result. The best result usually comes from a good exit velocity at a little bit higher launch angle. And so the fact that Bumgarner here could maintain his velocity at such a high angle is why this ball was hit 422 feet. And this is the second hardest home run hit by a pitcher since they've been tracking this kind of thing. And again, that just makes it all the more impressive that it was this speed at this height. And so that's unbelievable. So let's take a look at the swing that produced that. We'll look at two different views. We'll look at the front view and then the side view as well. So at the end, I'm going to go through, let the swings from both views just kind of play through, because I know that some people like to see that more fluidly without me talking a bunch during it, and so I will do that at the end of this video. All right, so here's Bumgarner. You're going to see him from the front view, and so being a pitcher, I think pitchers have a unique advantage in some ways over hitters, just in the way that they maybe think about movement. Okay, so most pitchers that we come in contact with, if we say, hey, is it good or bad when you pitch to land with your front foot, front side, and hips open, right? What we hear is, yeah, I want to do that. I want to, land open when I throw. That's generally a pretty common theme among pitching instruction these days. Now, it's getting to be more and more and more common among hitting instruction as well, but there are many hitters who their coaches are telling them to stay closed, don't open up the hips, don't fly open, things like that. And so this landing position that you see here, where Bumgarner has clearly gotten his front foot most of the way open, front knee most of the way open, back leg is turning in. This landing position where he's actually opening, okay, while his foot is in the air. So he's almost turning his foot down. All right. So you can see that he's definitely closed. He's still loaded up here. You don't see him opening yet. Foot's fairly close to the ground, and you see him open into his landing, very much like a pitcher would. And so I think it's impressive, but he also has that advantage that he doesn't really have a hitting coach breathing down his neck telling him to stay closed. He's probably just going up there and hitting the way he's always hit, and I think because of that, he's freed up to have a really, really good lower half. Now, obviously, pitchers are at a disadvantage compared to hitters when it comes to hitting, because they don't do it as much, and so that's not what I'm speaking about. It's more about just the lower half mechanics. I think Bumgarner, because of his pitching background, does have a unique advantage here. So let's take a look at his timing a little bit. So watch, we don't get to see the very start of his leg kick, but what I do want you to see is, you can see back here where Greinke is still basically in his layback, or maybe this isn't Greinke, this is Chassin, I guess. So the pitcher is in his layback here with the ball still in his hand, and look how Bumgarner's already gotten to basically close to the top of his leg kick, or even on the way down. So he got started very, very early in the pitcher's delivery, and so that gives him time to move and to take more control over over his swing and over the situation. I was watching the Cubs game last night as well, and you saw a guy like Hayward, who was extremely jumpy and started super late. Well, he's making himself more defensive, where Bumgarner, by starting early, can be more on the offensive end. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed here that Bumgarner does best, I already mentioned, kind of turning his foot down, but he creates great separation here. Okay, so you're going to see The back knees start to turn toward the pitcher. See that? As the back knee starts to turn toward the pitcher, as the front knee starts to open up as well, you start to see a little bit of the belt buckle here. But what you see with the numbers is that the numbers do more tilting than they do turning. There's a little bit of turn there, but you see that the front shoulder really starts to go up, okay, and the back shoulder starts to go down, and so you have more of a tilting action where the lower body, the back leg, followed by the back hip, is doing more of a turning action. Okay, and so that's really setting up phenomenal separation. You can see that the bat is still up and ready to go, so he's created a lot of stretch between the lower body and the upper body, which is the shoulders and the arms and the bat. Okay, so it's like a rubber band. He's really creating a ton of energy here. So now, when we talk about this in slow-mo, sometimes it's easy to think about positions. Well, if I'm going to play it full speed really quick, these aren't positions he's getting to, they're positions he's moving through, okay? And that's really important to see because you don't want to get here and then think, okay, I'm stopped and now I go. You want it to be fluid in one motion. So and part of that comes with timing. If your timing's off, you may look a little bit more, step one, step two. But ideally, we want to be able to flow through the swing. So, as he begins those hips to really unleash, you're going to see the back shoulder and the barrel drop down. Okay, so he gets more of a vertical action where the bat goes down fast toward the catcher, and then it's going to come up through contact. So he makes that Nike swoosh shape, which we'll see from the side. But one of the things you can see here is that he keeps his hands close to his body. Okay, so he keeps his hands high and tight and just lets the barrel rotate around the hands. So the barrel goes down toward the catcher and then turns around the hands to make a very tight, efficient circle. And this ball is absolutely blasted. You can definitely see that he's swinging upward through the ball, upward extension, because you can see the from this view, you see the bottom, closer to the bottom of the barrel come up at us from this view, where if he were swinging down, you'd see the contact and then you'd see more of the top of his barrel. So this is really good. You can really see the back hip thrusting up and through here as the wrists are letting the barrel come through the zone. And so he's basically allowing the lower half kind of final blow through the ball and the snap of the upper body to work together in the same direction up through the ball. And then, last thing from the front view here, you're just going to see that he never stops turning. So his shoulders, once they start going, never stop until he gets all the way around to the end. You can see the ER at the end of his name here. He just never stops, and this is just a very fluid swing. And I think if you were a guy who were really able to concentrate more on hitting and took swings like this, I mean, you might end up batting him if he was an American League lineup, you might end up DHing him on the days that he doesn't pitch. Now, could you find some flaws and some holes and pitches that he's not used to? Sure, but if he really devoted the time to it, I'll bet with that swing, he could be a guy who could hit in big league lineups, which is pretty impressive. So let's go to the side view now. So you're going to see a lot of the same things. So I mentioned the turning of the foot down. So here, the foot isn't quite down yet. You're going to see the back knee really start to go toward the pitcher as he's going into his landing. So he creates that great stretch here. Back knees here. Belt line starting to turn open. Shoulders closed. Barrel still up, ready to go. And again, there's just that big stretch between the lower and the upper body. And then once he lands, his head stays very, very still, and you see that vertical acceleration of the bat toward the catcher's mitt. Okay, so you're going to see the bat really go down here, right? And then it's going to, we miss a few frames here, but you can see that the barrel is going to shape up through, right? So, if we look at what that shape looks like, well, it looks kind of like a Nike swoosh, doesn't it, right? So the bat does have to come down, so we want to accelerate the bat down as fast as we can in front of the catcher's mitt and then turn it up through contact and into extension. Here, if you watch his back hip from that position where he creates that really good setup, the back hip's really going to thrust up and forward. Doesn't just stay flat. It goes up and forward, and you can actually see it pull that back foot just slightly forward there. So you can see here's where his toe. I'll mark it with the cursor. And you can see that his toe has moved forward. And then with all the produce he's forcing from his turn, this front leg really goes back, front hip really goes back as the back hip goes forward. And so he's turning around a head and a spine that don't move or shift in the turn. And so it's a very clean, tight turn that's going to produce a lot of force up through the ball, and that's why it was one of the biggest stories of opening day was a pitcher who was dominating with the bat. And so, I think if Bumgarner, who is obviously extremely athletic and talented, but again, think about him as a guy who is not being coached up a lot, and so some of the things he does in his swing that look a little bit different, like landing open, like really swinging up, things like that, than maybe what you've been taught to do. Well, maybe there's a reason for that because he hasn't been told a lot of the stuff that the best hitters don't actually do. And so sometimes, especially a more athletic guy like Bumgarner, it's good to watch what those guys do because they're not being messed with at all by a hitting coach. Okay, so let's take a look really quick, just fluidly at both of these views here so you can see it, and then we'll be done with today's swing breakdown. So again, really impressive. Both from both the front and the side views here. Again, yeah, he's actually a North Carolina guy. I saw him play in high school, and this guy's been able to mash for years. So, as well as throw the heck out of the ball. So, all around great player. Would love to see maybe him in a home run derby at some point. I know he's mentioned that before. So here's the side view. I'll just let it play a few times from the side, but yeah, thank you for watching today's swing breakdown, and keep watching baseball as we go through this opening week, and feel free to comment below with any swing breakdown requests that you guys may have. Thanks for watching.